This episode is brought to you by Muntins Malts, a company that is passionate about providing premium malts to brewers worldwide. For over a century, Muntins has been a leading supplier of brewing and distilling malts, offering the finest British malted barley on the market. You can experience the difference Muntins offers by joining a recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club, because every kit that ships out now includes premium Muntins malt. You know, we've known the Muntins crew for a long time, and I can tell you, friend, you're going to love brewing with their grains. Ask your local supply shop to carry Muntins malts, or homebrewers can join our Trub Club at homebrewhappyhour.com/club, be a part of the community, and come brew with us. Thank you, Muntins, for supporting our efforts and homebrewers worldwide. Today's show is brought to you by Hopsdirect.com. Grown in the esteemed Yakima Valley on the Pewterball family farm, Hopsdirect.com offers the widest variety of hops available online at incredibly competitive pricing. It's simple. They grow hops, they sell hops, and they ship hops straight from their family-owned farm to your doorstep. Producing the highest quality hops is Hopsdirect.com's passion, and they're proud to be an independent grower in the craft beer industry. Go to Hopsdirect.com right now and get what you need to make your brew day better. That's Hopsdirect.com. Today's show is brought to you by Imperial Yeast. You hear us gushing over Imperial Yeast all the time, and that's because their yeast performs for us in every batch that we brew. Imperial Yeast is adored by commercial breweries and home brewers alike. Their pitch-right pouches are jam-packed with over 200 billion fresh yeast cells, guaranteed to deliver flawless, fast fermentations every time. Imperial Yeast strains are grown by a team of pro brewers and home brewers who live to help other brewers learn more and ferment better. Join any recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club and get a free upgrade to premium Imperial Yeast with every recipe kit that ships out to you. Learn more at homebrewhappyhour.com/club and come brew with us.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Losing carbonation in my beer lines, dumping a few ounces from the first pour, and getting proper carbonation and nitrogen cascading when dispensing with beer gas. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 383. Well, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. And if you, my friend, have a question that you would like us to discuss on a future episode, you could go to homebrewhappyhour.com and use that submit a question link at the top of the page, or even better, you could call in a voicemail question or feedback, but preferably a question to 325-305-6107. And if we use that question on a future episode, you get yourself a $25 gift card to kegconnection.com. I'm one of your hosts, Joshua Stuman, joined as always by the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com right over there, Mr. James Carlson, as well as the President and Chief Keg Washer of kegconnection.com, Mr. Todd Burns. Gentlemen, hello.
Hi.
How goes it? It's busy, huh? Busy. Todd was on the road. You were doing an install. Well, not install. I guess you were working
Repair
at a restaurant.
It was just a beer pump that was out, so I had to replace it and look at some other things.
And the 2 hours away, give or take?
Yeah, it's a long drive. I thought I was going to get them to do it, but it didn't work out, so I had to go do it. So
right on. And James is there holding the fort down for whatever reason today, boss. I told James earlier I wasn't going to bother you at the restaurant. The Keg Connection is a target today for credit card scammers testing out credit cards. Apparently, we got
really,
probably. I don't know, maybe up to half a dozen fake orders. They're all for the party tap with 5 foot of draft line. Yeah, like the standard old, it's like a $5 part.
Yeah.
And so after shipping, you see all these orders coming in for like $11. And the
Are they
emails
being declined by the fraud?
one of them didn't, and I almost called them, but I know I need to email them because they actually I don't know if I have their phone number, the company we use for fraud detect, but I do know they insured it. So if it did go out and turned out to be fraud with the chargeback, they're going to be paying you money. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but yeah, it was like 6 of them because I was looking at orders this morning. I was like, dang, we're picking up this morning. But then I saw, the quantity, they're all little. I mean, every order's appreciated, sure, whatever. But then I saw like, why are all these draft taps these pigment tap with draft lines? Why are these popular all of a sudden? Do we have a Google ad campaign I didn't know about? And no, it's fraud. That's all. That's a fraud. I do also want to tell people, I apologize if you hear when I process this audio, you shouldn't hear it then, but it's bothering the crap out of me now. My desktop computer is dead, and the GPU and or the power supply. I'm getting it looked at soon, but so I'm on my laptop and running the software that we do to do this show. Apparently, is just making it miserable because all I hear is. I don't know if you guys can hear it even, but I hear my ears are so big. I guess that's how I hear it. But oh my gosh, it's bothering me. Anyways, we do. And I guess I might as well bring up too. Unfortunately, too, my house got pulverized by a hailstorm last week, Thursday, and then again a little bit of more hail came around our place Monday of this week. So it's been a fun week of that. I have insurance coming, and I bring that up not for the sympathy, but mostly, let me see if on my laptop if I mapped it the right way. Brew Day Live, friends, is being rescheduled to Friday, May 24th instead of Friday, May 17th. So next week, a week from this week, my pop and I are going to be brewing the delicious Mosaic Smash IPA. Had to delay it by a week. A lot's going on Friday now. Insurance originally told me they're coming Saturday, and then the lady called and said, hey, if my team's in town Friday, can they come by then? Whatever. And stuff that I get taken care of. But anyway, so we rescheduled it. Join us at youtube.com/homebrew happy hour if you want to watch it live, interact with us, and all that fun stuff. It is going to be a good recipe. But if you want to brew it yourself or be prepared to brew it with us, because those recipe kits are going out when I'm up there next week, go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Join at a recipe receiving level. Go to the post that has the recipe on it, comment how you want your grains, and get the delicious Mosaic Smash IPA shipped to your doorstep. Next week is when they're going out. Thank you to our sponsors, Munton's Malt, hopsdirect.com, and of course, Imperial Yeast for all providing the most premium ingredients we could pack into our recipe kits. We genuinely appreciate it. And this one's exciting. It's using Munton's Lager Malt, which is like a Pilsner, and then it's using a ton of Mosaic hops from Hops Direct, and then dry hop is the strain we're using from Imperial. So it's going to be a very good time, in my opinion. What else do we have? I already covered May Trub Club, Brew Day Live, reschedule. Oh, and then just a reminder, friends, in case you haven't been listening, just giving you a proper heads up, that Alt Poll Call is coming in October. This is such a premature announcement. I don't have a title slide for it yet. But I know for Alt Poll Call and the Kolsch Cup, people are like, oh, crap, I didn't get enough heads up. I wanted my beer to cold condition for 9 weeks or whatever. This is your heads up. I believe it's the 24th of October. It's that Thursday, Friday, possibly Saturday of October. That's like the 24th or 25th. I'll get dates as we get closer to it. Registration will open up in probably a month or two, but just giving you a heads up, if you think you have the best alt around, and you want to enter the Alt Poll Call, get ready because it's coming up in October. That's all the small talk I have, guys, that I get through at record time. Par for the course. Went pretty quick. All the details of everything we're doing again at patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Or if you haven't already, subscribe at youtube.com/homebrew happy hour. Smash that like button, hit the bell notification, and leave a comment below because it greatly helps us with the algorithm. Something else that someone told me recently that greatly helps is reviews. If you're listening in Apple Podcasts specifically or Spotify, apparently that really helps. But we're happy with our audio downloads. It's our YouTube channel we would love for you to interact with. So with all that out of the way, our first question of the day is a voicemail, but it's also sort of listener feedback. So I'm going to...
It's time for listener feedback.
And question, our listener feedback.
What is up with your listener feedback thing? It's been messed up for a while now.
What do you mean?
Oh, it's just...
Does it sound bad on y'all's end?
Weird, didn't it? It's time for...
Listener feedback.
It's time for listener feedback.
Yeah, that's weird.
No way. Oh,
yeah,
I would,
messed up.
I would love to hear how y'all hear it. Thankfully, I think it's okay on
you
this.
You can't even hear the finish of feedback.
Yeah,
when it says
gone.
feed and starts to say B, it goes away.
It's time for listener feedback.
Yeah,
No.
it's messed up.
Y'all are trolling me, or am I okay?
No, we're
not.
serious.
Absolutely.
Oh no! Oh, I hope the computer is not. I hope that my computer is recording it the way I'm hearing it from the board. If it's not, hey, the magic of post-production editing, which I don't do. But anyway, our first question is a question with some listener feedback. It's our buddy Stuart from San Diego.
Hello, Homebrew Happy Hour team. Stuart from San Diego calling in with a little bit of feedback and a question as well. Feedback, I have moved to the Australian no-chill method. Obviously, it's warm here in San Diego in the summer. So no-chill not only lets me shave, probably half hour off my brew day. It's always nice when you got two kids under 2. So allows me to do that and save some water at the same time. So positive movements there. The only thing I found is some of my hoppier beers come out a little bit hoppier, so it's going to change some of those 0-minute additions because the wort is staying hot for an extended period of time, kind of like an extended whirlpool. Question. I have a 6-tap kegerator. I think I've talked previously about it. I have some questions around line lengths, things like that. The first pour out of my lines, I run like 10 feet vinyl lines. Often, the first pour ends up being 8 ounces, 10 ounces maybe, has a noticeable different carbonation. And so I can see that in that line as I'm pouring into a pint. The first half is probably light, low carb, and then you can kind of see when the beer from the keg kicks in and gets through all the lines, that beer has a amount of carbonation to finish out the glass. Obviously, second and third pours for the night, no problem. But is that CO2 leaking out of my lines, or my lines somehow differing the carbonation level of the beer? Would love to know your guys' thoughts and maybe some ways to improve that. If it's pouring 8 ounces of every beer on tap a day, it's not a hard problem to have. But I appreciate it. Again, Stuart from San Diego. Thanks all.
Stuart, thank you for the question. The Australian method of no-chill is appealing to me only in the sense that it makes it seem like it'd be easier, but I don't know if I trust it. I have, however, adopted the Australian method of trying to use the C word in my vocabulary more every day. They're very loose with that word. I actually made the mistake. Do you remember when we were at Homebrew Con, Todd? I don't know if you remember. Or James, you were there too.
But there was an English.
No, well, I was about to say, I thought the English did too, and they were mortified when I was like, I admire your people's use of the C word, and I actually said the C word, and one of them was just like, "Oh, mate, that's not us," and I was like, "Oh crap! Oh, it's Australians!" And I'm kidding, Mom. I don't use that word. That word is grotesque. But anyway,
Are you talking about cat?
yeah, cat.
That's
of
it.
course,
Exactly.
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
I wouldn't say that. I'd have to bleep that out now that you said. You know what'd be funny is if I would have bleeped that out and not mentioned it to make it seem like you said that word. That would have been funnier. I'm hindsight witty.
Well, I
Anyway,
don't see what's so funny about pussycats, but yeah.
anyway, 1-star reviews. Here we come. No,
What?
the
Talking
Don't
about?
feed the trolls.
don't feed them. So yeah, the no-chill method, that is, a lot of people, there are a lot of methods people are utilizing and letting us know in regards to streamlining their brew day and this or that. My pop and I finally figured out our counterflow chiller, James, how it's supposed to work. I think you've known it for a while and I've just never asked you, where it's not like a trickle, but it basically slowing down the flow so much, it was coming out at pitchable temps. For us, we're pressure fermenting. So the last brew day we did, that London Brown, it was coming out at like 77. And we were like, we were going to pitch at 80 because we're doing it under pressure. I know, but and I say it's not a time saver for us it is nice that we can go directly as we're chilling into the fermenter. However, at the slow rate of flow it still took forever to fill up, like 15 gallons, or pardon me, not 15 gallons, 11 gallons. It took a while. So, but I was happy because usually we were recirculating into itself and like, why is chilling taking so long? And people would tell us in the comments, you're not supposed to do that with a counterflow chiller, Josh. And you're not supposed to treat it like an immersion chiller and blah, 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 Josh. So I'm glad we figured it out. But anyways, to his question, Todd, I'll throw it to you first. It's a keg kit and you're the keg kit guy. When he's running 10-foot lines, and he feels like his first 4 to 8 ounces are all severely undercarbonated compared to the rest of it. I'm assuming that's just the beer that's sitting in that 10 foot of lines that he's talking about. How many ounces are in 10 foot of line?
I was like, how in the world is he getting 8 ounces? But I don't know. Even with 10 foot, it shouldn't be 8 ounces if he's using 3/16. I don't, sometimes people use 10 feet and I don't really know why. That's a lot of restrictions. I don't know that he needs that much. I wonder if he could cut it down to 6 or 7. That would help with some of the waste. As far as pouring a new beer out of a kegerator, it's very common that first, I would say 2 ounces is what I see primarily. He may be calling it 8 ounces because it's 8 ounces of foam. And 8 ounces of foam is nowhere near 8 ounces of beer. So that may be because 10 feet of 3/16 line doesn't hold 8 ounces.
Yeah.
It says here in my little draft manual that a foot of 3/16 ID hose is 1/6 of a fluid ounce.
Yeah. Yeah. So it should be less than 2 ounces, even with 2 feet. So,
or 10 feet. Yeah.
But 10 feet. But, with mine, a lot of times people will go up and get a beer that hadn't been poured in a long time, and they take a sip and they're like, God, that's terrible beer. You should brew better beer. And I'm like, oh, Josh brewed that one, No, but what happens is, or James, I always
James. It was James.
Yeah, it was James's. So anyway, what it really is I'll say, listen, take a cup, pour about an ounce of beer, and it'll spurt because it'll flow just like he's talking about. He can tell when the keg's coming in because you'll get a little spurt on the thing, and that's because it's collected all this CO2 in the line, which is separated out of the beer, and you're getting pockets, and that's what's giving you the foam. That's what's giving you the spurt. So if you haven't served a beer in a while, you really need to run that through because not only will it be foamy, but it's also going to taste like crap usually. You want to flow that through and then pour a real beer. But again, the perception of it being, there's a perception of it being a lot of beer, but it's not very much at all. So with my kegerator, when I get to the point where it's the keg, the actual quantity of beer is, around an ounce, I would say.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not going to accuse Stuart of anything, although I think he has made fun of me in voicemails past. But I won't throw you under the bus too much as the fish might be this big in regards to, it's like 12 ounces or whatever, like when really.
Well, it could be just all foam too, which is, foam is, once you start doing foam, beer foam, you get a lot more quantity. So
now, James, tell me, in your opinion, this might not be a hard science. If I have a kegerator tower or even a Keyser kind of build, if my lines are cold, like if it's a tower and I have a fan blowing the cold air up there, is that going to make it less likely to lose CO2 and specifically go a little bit gross if it's been a couple of weeks since I've tapped?
Well, I never have that problem, but for the people that do, I guess it's possible if it's sitting there, but if it stays cold, it tends to want to stay in. It doesn't want to break out. When we talk about breakout, we're talking about the gas leaving the liquid. That's usually what happens when it starts to foam. I'm with Todd. With my system, I'll get a little spurt of gas, which is, I guess, the kegs are low. The CO2 is starting to break out as it sets and it collects at the faucet head. And so you get that initial pop or spurt of just CO2. So that means everything in the line's probably flat. Yeah. And so when it starts to pick up out of the keg, then you're getting regular beer. And that's kind of why he's experiencing what he's experiencing, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think foam is, I think foam's somewhere between like 20 and 30, like 25% beer.
Oh, is that
something like that.
Is that the equation?
So that makes sense that if he has 10 feet of line and that's about 2 ounces, then that would be about 7 or 8 ounces of foam.
Using context clues, is it safe for me to assume he has an actual tower? Because Todd, I've not that you've let beer sit too long, but every now and then when you go out of town or whatever and you come back, I've never seen it break out in your lines. Now, the issue you're talking about sometimes with the first pour, the first couple, the ounce or two, that's a little gross. That I don't know if you can avoid that, but have you had this issue with your Keezer where everything is cold and the same temperature basically spread out throughout your converted chest freezer? Have you had this issue of breakout in the line?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, but that's what we're talking about. That's exactly what he's describing. It's fine once he gets to the keg. It's just the carbonation breaks out in the line. It's just a natural thing that occurs, and the beer always tastes like crap too. Now, I will say I probably get a little. Well, no, that's not true. I'm using 5/16 ID line too, so I have a lot more beer in my line. But my lines aren't very long at all, so that compensates for it. And again, I don't know, really understand, why people use 10 feet of line unless they've got some other underlying issue, which could be maybe they can't get their temperature low enough, or something like that, where they're just trying to compensate for that.
I think you'd be surprised if you looked at now. It's been a very long time, so I don't want to make a $5 bet on this, but I remember when we first started offering on our homebrew keg kits specifically different line lengths. 10 foot. Yeah. Remember, 10 was the most popular for a very long time of people ordering per line. They're getting, because I think we offer it in 5, 10.
I've actually thought about going to 6 as standard.
We have talked about it. We should. I think that is our friend Cody Hubertus over at Hubertus Beer, I think, says 6 foot is the golden standard.
Well, okay. So I wouldn't say it's a golden standard because every calculator you look at says you need about 4.5 feet. So 5 feet is the reason that was decided on, is because about 4.5 is the right restriction on a direct draw system. But I think what he's saying is that you add an extra foot, it's not going to cause a lot of drag, or it's not going to cause you to slow your pour down that much, but it gives you just that little bit more restriction to help with things.
I don't know, dude. He showed me Houdini's principle. I'm convinced. Pretty sure I understand flow rate and all that now. All right. I
don't think you know anything about it.
Yeah.
Houdini's.
Why don't you go ahead and explain it then to all of us?
Well, Houdini was a magician, I think in the 20s or something, and some.
Okay.
Anyways, this is a great question for people. So the amount of lines, even if it's tower or not, that's not going to affect anything for the answer here, because it is a per line thing. And so Stuart, he does call in a bunch, and he's been a fan of the show for a while, or at least a listener.
Okay, so I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't agree immediately that it doesn't affect anything. Of course, a beer tower tends to get warmer because it's exposed to the elements. So it's typically insulated, and a lot of times you have a blower, but you're still if you don't have a blower, you're definitely going to have a lot warmer beer in that beer tower, and it's going to cause basically the same problem.
Yeah. But I guess you're right. I was also jumping forward because you're right. Even like our popular T towers, the bigger they are, the more opportunity there is for warm air to be in there. So it would make a difference technically.
Yeah.
Not technically, literally.
I mean, that's why I have a blower on mine, the ones that I have. So I'm always blowing cold air up there.
Which, thank you, Stuart, for the question. I'll wrap it up here in a little bit. You finished the gazebo up by the pool. Do you have a kegerator up there yet?
No, but I need help bringing it up there.
Ooh, I'll do that when I'm up there next week.
Okay.
I won't need you there. You won't. Or you're still on. Yeah, I'm not convinced you're actually on weight restriction. But every time, like what your Liz is
I weed-eated it on Friday, and I thought I was going to die all weekend. Everything I do hurts. I went in yesterday and they burned my nerves.
Yeah, the ablation
on one side of my back. So
it's getting sick. Well, all I know is every time your wife is like, "Hey, the big pots for my plants need to be moved," you're like, "Oh, I can't." Oh, and then it's
absolutely. I'm never moving those again.
Yeah, don't please.
And she's brilliant though, because she feeds me one of my many favorite meals that she cooks, and then I'm stuffed just miserably happy, and then she's like, oh Josh, by the way, can you move this? I'm like, let me roll the pot as I'm rolling myself. But anyways, yeah, no, you shouldn't be lifting. But which kegerator is going up there? The one you got from Guy or the other one?
The outdoor one.
Oh, that's right. No, the ones we used to carry, the one that's in the brew room.
Yeah,
at the
it's
office.
because it's for outdoor.
It is. That's right. We used to carry them. They were real popular. The Tap Draft line of kegerators. But yeah, I'll get that up there. That'll be fun to have a kegerator up there while I'm sending you pictures of me up there enjoying your pool while you're out of town. But anyway, yeah, because what is the show? I didn't mention it in small talk. You're going, is this the National Restaurant Show, or was that the last one you went to?
I am going to the National Restaurant Association show. Yeah.
The other NRA. Oh, okay. When you told me the NRA convention was in Chicago, I was like, really? Is it?
I know there was some confusion with other people as well. Some of my friends.
They're like, what, Chicago? Really? Huh. Anyway.
Yeah, my friend was like, no, the NRA convention was in Dallas this year. What are you talking about?
Yeah, of course, you're like, arguing with, I'll bet you $5. Anyways, Stuart, thank you so much for submitting the question. Friends, if you're watching at home or listening and you have feedback on that question, you could call it in to 325-305-6107. And if it's worthy of us playing in the future, like Stuart's voicemail was, you'd get yourself a $25 gift card to kegconnection.com. Alternatively, you could text that same hotline or email joshua@homebrewhappyhour.com. And if I use your feedback or question that way on a future episode, you still get yourself a $15 gift card, which I think is pretty good. Like our second question of the show, it's our buddy Lon, and he texted us. He wrote, "Hi, Josh, Todd, and James. I'm designing my first teaser ever, and I am brewing the first beer I'll run through it, my house pale ale. A club member friend of mine told me that if you do not tap your keg at least every other day, then you should get a taster to fill up a few ounces that you will throw out before pouring into the glass you will be drinking from. Is there any truth to that? What can I do?"
We just answered this question.
You know what? You jumped the gun. Let me finish it. Any truth to that? What can I do for my first teaser to avoid losing a few ounces? Long-time listener, first-time questioner, thank you for the hours of entertainment over the years. Lon, thank you, my friend. He actually just joined at patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Plug of the show. We did sort of answer, but we didn't address two things. I think I know the short answer for how he can avoid it. And then two, is there a rule of thumb for, yes, if beer's sitting in your line for 72 hours, then it's going to go bad? I mean, like James said, you don't experience, if you have beer on tap, you're enjoying it regularly to where you're not experiencing this, even if it's just a pour a day. I mean, and you as well. That's what I'm saying. My dad and I.
No, I do experience it. I experience it every time. I mean, if I go home, if people are coming to my house and I know they're going to be drinking all the beers, I will take a little taster and pour about an ounce off of every beer before they get there.
Even if you tapped them all the night before.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
But I can tell the difference the next day.
No kidding.
Yeah, I always pull a taster off. An ounce. I basically pulled an ounce out.
Interesting. James, now, do you experience it? And do you do that?
Well, I mean, I have a whole different setup than he has. I have one that's got lines leaving the fridge, going into the wall. So I experience foam all the time. Until I can manage that, I can't tell a difference.
Gotcha.
I have to cool everything down before, so I'm losing a lot more. But I'll just drink it anyway. Yeah. So I'm not going to waste
you don't let stuff go to waste. Absolutely not.
No.
My short answer for Lon Todd was going to be, is there anything I can do about that? Yes, consistently drink. That's the only solution to not having your lines losing an ounce or two from every pour. Every Todd thinks he can notice a difference every day, so I would say every 12 hours, just pour every 12, or maybe every 5.
I don't disagree with that.
That's a good rule. So I'm curious because like I said, my dad and I will go sometimes, for me specifically, beer at his house, I'm going a week in between. And there are some beers he has on tap where he is also going a week in between. And I have noticed, just pouring a taster worth, like you said, Todd, an ounce or two is enough. I did with the pale ale. And before I ever thought hear me out. I have that new Float It 2.0 on that, and I thought, oh, now that it's on it, every pour from the beginning will be clear. Not remembering that there's beer in the line still, Joshua. Like that the floating dip tube doesn't affect the beer that's in your line between the faucet and the keg. And even though we are also using flow control, I think we still have 3.5 feet of beer line on every keg. So that's a good chunk of line in regards to how much beer could be in there. But the last Sunday that I poured the pale ale, I did not do a taster. My dad had not tapped it for a week. And I tell you the truth, Todd, it tasted great. Did I luck out, or am I a goofball and have a bad palate? Because in theory, it should have been terrible.
I can't answer. I have no idea.
But I mean, it literally, I poured mine first without doing a taster and dumping it. And then I poured my dad's and I handed him and I go, oh, I didn't even dump the first part out. And I drank, I go, oh my gosh, it's still really good. I didn't notice a difference at all. I was smoking though. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. But okay. So again, I get, like you said, Todd, we did kind of cover this already in the first question, but you would say you do notice a difference after even a day. And so part of your maintenance of, if you're having people over and they're going to be drinking from all, is just pouring an ounce from each one just to be safe.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. Perfect. I think that probably wraps it up. I have nothing more to add. I was going to try to drag it out, but you know what? I'm tired of looking at my bald face on my screen. Lon, thank you so much for that very great question that we answered super quickly. Reminder, friends, if you text 325-305-6107 and I use your question on a future episode, you get yourself a $15 gift card to catconnection.com. However, if you call that same hotline and leave us a voicemail, question preferred, feedback you could, but prefer a question because I still need them, and I use it on a future episode, you get yourself a $25 gift card to catconnection.com. Like our third and our final question for this week's show, it's our buddy Rick from New England.
This is Rick from New England, home of New England IPA. I know it's not your guys' favorite style, but I'm loving them up here in New England. Got a question about draft, about specifically a nitro system. I have mine at about 35 psi, 36 to 37 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a beer gas mix. The tank says beer gas, and it also says UN 1956. The pours I get comes out nice and fast, but it just is flat. It doesn't have the nice cascading effect. It does it a little bit, but it just does not have the effect as when I go to a pub and I see Guinness poured. Mine does not have that effect, and it's a little bit flat. So I wonder if you can give me some pointers on how to get a better pour out of nitro. You guys do a great job. I love listening to your show. Josh, you're the best, and so are the rest of you guys on there.
Hey, whoa, Bye. Rick. Whoa, I didn't see that part of you giving them compliments too. How dare you? He's obviously a longtime listener. He knows how to get his question on the show. Beer gas, boss man. I'm going to throw it to you first because beer gas is one of those, like when I'm going to the place with my cylinder, it's just CO2. It's not beer gas. I've never asked for beer gas. What is beer gas, and why would a home brewer want to have it for their beer?
So let me ask you a question first. I couldn't hear in the very beginning. What did he say? He was pouring an actual Guinness from a keg, or what is he pouring?
Man, I think my board, my bad. It was sending. So okay, he did. What did he say he's drafting? He just he mentioned New England IPA, but no, all he's saying is he's pouring a beer, like I guess a stout, but it does not cascade the way he sees Guinness at a bar. I don't think he's talking about commercial Guinness that he has. I think he's talking about he has beer gas for his stout. It is not only not cascading that much, but it's also flat when he tries to drink it.
Okay, so I guess the first thing I don't really have enough information to completely answer the question, but so if you want carbonation in a beer that's nitrogen, that you're serving on nitrogen, it still has to have carbonation in it, so it still has to be carbonated. And then depending on how your nitrogen system works, like the one that we sell, that we do a lot of coffee with, but it also works for beer. That one, actually injects the nitrogen in as it's pouring. But if your system's not doing that, you also have to get some of that nitrogen in there. So you can't just serve it with nitrogen and get a perfect pour and get all the cascading and get all of that. And the other thing I would mention is, when you do get a Guinness in a bar, it has that nitrogen and kind of has a very smooth texture. But often after it's poured and you start drinking it, it's pretty flat. I mean, it's not a very carbonated beer at all. So I don't know. I just don't know exactly what he's doing. It's hard to answer that question without having more information on it.
Sure, yeah, I get that. But how about answering what is beer gas and why would home brewers use it versus
beer
CO2?
Gas is a mixture. It's not. There is no beer. This is beer gas. This is always the way it is. But the two most common, I think, are 60-40 and 70-30, and I've heard of 75-25 as well. I don't really know why people use such a wide variety in different areas, but it basically is a mixture with of nitrogen and CO2.
And when what kind of tank are you putting beer gas in? Is it a CO2?
Either any kind of tank.
So okay, so if I'm Joshua home brewer and I have an extra CO2 cylinder that's empty, and instead of filling it up with that, I could take it to my supplier, assuming they have beer gas, and they could put it in there, and I could use my existing regulator and all that.
You can, but just keep in mind, if you're putting beer gas in a CO2 cylinder, it's very limited in the pressure, so you can't put very much in there. If you're putting it into a nitro cylinder, then you've got a lot more pressure to work with. So to understand what that means, you got to understand that CO2 and it is normally a liquid in your tank, and nitrogen is a gas. So when you're doing a beer mixture, at that point they're both gas. So you're not filling it full of liquid and then it evaporates off and you get a huge amount of volume. You're just dealing with the pressure of the actual gas itself.
Now, before I throw it to you, James, I promise I have stuff for you for this question. But Todd, you have more beer on tap than any other home brewer I know. That I personally know. I'm sure we have people in the community waiting to share their photos. Like, I have 400, but Todd always has like 12 or 13. Let me do the math. It's 13, right? You have 13 taps, I think.
Yep.
Right? Isn't it 13? Either way.
Yeah, 13. You're right.
You've got various PSIs for certain styles, this or that. I've never seen you implement beer gas before. Is there a reason for that?
Well, we actually are waiting for a tower to come in right now, and we're going to do beer gas. I'm saving that stout, the extra keg of stout I have, and we're going to run beer gas. But that's very different, because it's that tower that actually injects the nitro in as you're pouring it. So it's going to be very different than what the average home brewer would do when they're pouring nitro.
That is going to be interesting for how we utilize, because that tower that you're talking about, Nitro Fusion, it's going to be on Keg Connection soon. We are testing it in coffee shops where it's just nitrogen. You don't want CO2 touching your coffee. It'll make it gross and bitter, your cold brew. But the whole concept is one keg connected, 2 taps. And for the coffee version, the one side is just standard old cold brew, and the side with that injector makes it is incredible. We have video that we were showing at the trade show. People loved it what they saw, because it is the most vigorous cascade I've ever seen for this setup. I've seen, like, many years ago, we tried to work with, who is the company out of Dallas? Farmer Brothers? Is that a coffee company?
Yeah, that's right.
They still kept the fridge too. But
they did.
They did. They kept the fridge. And Todd was like, "You go get it." And I was like, "I'm all bark. I'm not bite. I don't want to drive to Dallas and argue with them. I bet they don't even have it. They probably ran it into the ground." Anyway, remember how difficult we had a time we had trying to get that vigorous cascade effect on the pour. That injector that Hubertus has done is just brilliant. It really does.
And we made a huge mistake in the beginning of that, and that we used beer gas, because that's what we're beer guys, so we use beer gas, and you cannot put any CO2 on coffee.
Yeah.
it gives it a real bitter taste because of the carbonic acid.
And maybe that's why they didn't call me back. Anyways, though, James, you as well have had a ton of different styles and stuff that you've not only brewed, but you have on tap. Has beer gas ever made its way into your setup? Never.
Nope.
No interest.
Never had it.
I wonder, the breakfast stout my pop and I do y'all think, like subjectively speaking, obviously, would it benefit from some beer gas, Todd, as opposed to just nitrogen? Do you think that the smoothness would make the breakfast stout, as I understand, I've never seen it nitrogenated in the bottles I get at the store, but I'm sure it's offered on draft nitrogen some places.
Yeah, but it always has CO2 in it.
No, I know as well. I just meant the beer gas, which has CO2 in it. Do you think, though, that a 70-30 or a 60-40 blend would enhance it, like worth the effort of me getting the equipment?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's going to give you that nitrogen feel and taste, and it'll definitely change the beer. I mean, I've been to bars or brew pubs, I should say, on multiple occasions where they had the same beer on CO2 and on a beer gas, and you could definitely, they almost taste like different beers, you know.
Yeah. I remember Great American Beer Festival. Left Hand had, I think it was called Wake Up Dead, as nitro on tap and normal. And you're right, I do remember the nitrogen. Yeah, just it creamifies. It makes it more creamy. It softens the mouthfeel. It is a good experience.
Creamiates. I'm joking.
Creamiates. That's in your search history, I bet, you perv. Mine's there. No, honey, I was looking up beer. Creamifies. I swear, I was looking up beer. Anyway, it is, though, I will agree with what Rick's saying. It is incredibly satisfying visually when you go get a Guinness poured and you see that cascading effect. I feel the same way with nitrogen cold brew. I've been going down to that coffee shop we're testing our unit in and, doing test pours. And it's almost as fun visually as it is delicious tasting. Like, it's this weird, I mean, James, we've talked about it before. There is an objective psychological effect with beer that is pretty. Like, we want our alt beer or our Kolsch or our Pilsner to be crystal clear because it could still taste good. But if it's not crystal clear, there's something in our brain that just goes, it's not as good.
Oh, yeah.
And I understand what Rick is going for. So, Todd, do you think the solution for him would be to find out what his mixture of beer gas is? Is that the starting point?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the beer has to be carbonated. So you probably want to carbonate it. I think the reason a lot of stouts are carbonated low, it might even have something to do with this. I never thought about it before, but traditionally they're carbonated much lower. You don't want to carbonate it to the equivalent of 12 psi at 38 degrees. You probably want to do like 2 volumes of carbonation. So if you go to Homebrew Happy Hour and you pull up our chart, I don't have it up right now, but it's kind of go for that psi of where you want to carbonate it to, and then you do the beer gas mixture and you serve it. You might even need to serve it at a higher psi. So you might need to serve it at if you're serving it at 40 degrees or 38 degrees, just because it's a stout, you might have to up your pressure. You might have to play around with it and go to 15 or 20 psi when you're pouring it. Because remember, the whole reason people use beer gas for the most part is not because of what we're talking about. It's because they're doing a long draw system. And with a long draw system, you're pushing with gas. You're always pushing. I shouldn't say always. If you're not using beer pumps, you're always pushing with mixed gas on a long draw, and you have to have a higher psi because and I've never understood why it works this way, but because of you have a mix of nitrogen and CO2. What would be 12 psi normally might need to be 20 psi to maintain the CO2 level or the level of carbonation of that beer when you're pushing it with mixed gas.
Interesting. I did not know that. I've never done the installs with y'all. I didn't realize if you're not using beer pumps, you got to use beer. Even if you are using beer pumps, you're still using beer gas on a long draw?
If you're using beer pumps, then you don't need beer gas because the beer pump will maintain that it'll pump up the beer. That's what I was doing this morning. It'll pump up that beer pressure. So all the ones we were using this morning were set at 10 psi. 10, 11, 12 is what typically you would set it at, just like a direct draw system.
Okay. And James, the beer gas doesn't, the nitrogen in it and a long draw isn't enough to affect the integrity of the beer. Like it's not in there for the sake of mouthfeel.
Yeah, it's pretty much, I think the biggest issue would be the CO2 side of that blended gas. That's the reason why we thin it out with nitrogen, so it doesn't artificially or contribute to more carbonation when you're pumping it through the line. So that's why they cut it with some nitrogen.
How long is that line, Todd, at the place you went? Is it a pretty short run in the bigger picture of long draws y'all have done?
It was 35 is what I counted, 35 feet.
Okay.
Oh, that's all it was? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That restaurant
is about the same. It's just a few feet longer than what we did on the other location.
So the one I went and looked at yesterday is probably about 100 feet. So
oh my gosh.
That would be more.
And I'm trying to convince them to use beer pumps on that just because I think it'll simplify everything.
Oh, absolutely.
That restaurant that Cody Hubertus took us to and we filmed at, what was that? Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't it like 230 feet, or am I exaggerating a little?
I think it was, I want to say it was 170.
Okay. I don't know why I thought it was over 200.
I think he said it in the video.
He probably does.
Or 150. It was a long line,
It's
a very long line, and it was pouring perfectly, But he was, if I remember right, they were using beer pumps on that one. So it makes, I was not always big on beer pumps, but one of the things I realized is, it's more expensive to buy the beer pump. It's another component you have to buy, and they're like $100 a piece. I mean, give or take a little. So if you're running like this one I was just looking at is 6 lines. So that's another $600. But you also don't have, unless you have another reason to have it, you don't have to have mixed gas. In mixed gas, you're renting equipment, you're paying a monthly fee. Long term, I think it'd be a lot less expensive to use beer gas than it would to use beer pumps than it is to use just mixed gas.
So you can just stick with CO2 and not get all this other stuff mixed in. So recap real quick, Todd, because you did most of the talking. What are some of the variables you'd need more info on to really help Rick dial in what he's going for?
Well, as long as he understands, you've got to carbonate that beer ahead of time. So I didn't know if he was just pouring a Guinness, and then I'm like, I have no idea why it's not working. But if he's pouring his own beer and he hasn't pre-carb that beer at all, then it's not going to pour right.
Perfect. So yeah, Rick, let us know what you're.
Hey,
what's that?
I've got an emergency I need to take care of.
Yes, sir. Hey, thank you. I was wrapping it up anyways. James, shout if you can hear me. He can't. I was going to make a poop joke, but I didn't want him to hear it. I was going, yeah. Anyways. Okay, Todd, I'll catch you later.
All right. Bye-bye.
And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, you could go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on the submit a question link at the top of the page, or be our best friend and leave us a voicemail at 325-305-6107. Thank you to our show sponsors like Muntons Malt Premium Grains for a better brew day. If you aren't already brewing with Muntons, give them a try by joining our Trub Club at a recipe receiving level. For the best hops available online, give our friends at hopsdirect.com a visit and pick up what you need for your next brew day. Also, get a pack of premium imperial yeast along with delicious recipes from us when you join the Trub Club. Go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and come brew with us. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thanks for listening.